I'm going to show you a headline. Now, before I do that, I want to ground you in the real world, where we are in our journey as humans in America. If you don't live in America, you're just have fun watching the show. I envy you. But we live in a time where we are in a very deadly pandemic, where the top cause of death when it comes to infectious disease, COVID-19, is being globally underreported and covered up. The United States government has been lying to us about COVID and how dangerous it is pretty much since March of 2020. Some people think that Joe Biden somehow fixed COVID. Those people are just as dumb as the MAGA people. Really, if you haven't gotten a vaccine in the last year, if you don't wear a mask or haven't worn a mask consistently every time you've left the house in the last year, you're no different than a MAGA person. Make America great again. That's you. You want to make America great again. You are a conservative if you don't wear a mask during a deadly pandemic, which we are still in, by the way. Thousands of people dying every week, but no one cares because the genocide of the vulnerable, the genocide of the elderly, the genocide of the disabled doesn't matter to the average American. But with all of this in mind, right, we are now dealing with a situation where major cities are dealing with wildfire smoke, a side effect of fossil fuel industries basically just robbing our planet, stealing all of its resources, burning it all up in the atmosphere, and dying a bunch of billionaires. And so, now that I've placed you all in reality, now, again, I'm not sure how many of you actually acknowledge reality that are watching or listening to this, but now that I've placed you in reality, let's check out this headline. Did New York leaders leave residents unprepared for the air quality crisis? And then, what do? They show a thumbnail image of some stupid motherfucker holding a fucking surgical mask, not an N95, a surgical mask on, no loops even. They're just... Now, I like to play video games. Some would consider me a gamer, lowercase g. I view this as a zombie apocalypse. I view this as, Dead Rising, Left 4 Dead, maybe a little bit of Fallout, you ever play Fallout? These are zombies. Let's just be honest. The average person that exists is a zombie. Let's just be honest. 90 to 95% of people walking around in the United States of America don't think. They're not rational creatures. How do I know this? We're in a deadly pandemic, and yet people are still going outside. People are still going to restaurants. People are still going to bars. People are still going to work in poorly ventilated areas. People are still sending their kids to school. How do you explain that behavior? Other than they're zombies. What are zombies? Think about it. What is the root definition of zombie? Someone that has been, let's say, theoretically infected with some sort of virus that causes them to behave aggressively and irrationally, but also to follow a very explicit set of instructions. Oftentimes in media, what do zombies want to do? They want to eat your brains. So they're going to do whatever they can to eat your brains, right? That's the common media trope of zombies. And that's the average American. Gotta go to work, gotta pay the bills, gotta pay rent, gotta send my kid to school. And everyone's just... Now, I'm not saying that you should just stop paying your rent. But what I'm saying is, collectively, we should probably do something about the idea that our government is systematically killing us. Whether it be COVID, wildfire smoke inhalation, which, by the way, imagine you are 1 year old and you're breathing in a bunch of fucking smoke during extremely important areas of development. Let's say you're 93 years old and you're breathing in extensive amounts of smoke. I mean, this is just fucking crazy ass shit. And again, this headline: did New York leaders leave residents unprepared for the air quality crisis? Now, the thing about this headline that makes me enraged is that the New York Times, which is what this article is from, has been on the forefront of pandemic cover-up activity. The New York Times is one of the most pro-genocide news outlets that somehow has mainstream respect. Not many people respect Fox News, even though they're pro-genocide. New York Times is pro-genocide, and a lot of people read their articles. They have participated in the cover-up of an infectious disease that is the world's leading cause of death when it comes to infectious diseases. It has been covered up. And they're going to do the same fucking thing with this wildfire smoke outbreak. What they're going to do is they're going to feign concern. Oh, we care so much. Oh, look at us, we care. And then slowly but surely, they're going to say, oh, it's no big deal. Everything's back to normal. Look at us. We're reporting the news. They get you in. This is, this is the bait. Oh, I respect New York Times. Look, they're calling out New York. As if that actually matters, right? But let's read this. New Yorkers have grown accustomed to being inundated with well-intentioned warnings from the city and state leaders for everything from incoming snowstorms to virus outbreaks. But as skies darkened dramatically over New York City on Tuesday evening, the air suddenly rich with acrid smoke, Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul made no public appearances about the worsening conditions, limiting their communications to news releases and posts on Twitter. It was not until Wednesday morning, roughly 12 hours after the air quality reached historically unhealthy levels, before Mr. Adams and Mr. Hochul addressed reporters to discuss the health crisis. They knew about this shit for weeks, and they did nothing. And if you are wondering why they did nothing, ask yourself when the last time you wore a mask was. Politicians treat you like idiots because you are idiots. If you actually stopped wearing a mask because the government said the pandemic was over, then you are, and I say this with complete sincerity and with the intent for you to learn a lesson from this, extremely dumb. Extremely dumb. I'm talking about impressive levels of dumb. Like, we should probably donate your body to science. You are so fucking precious in your own stupidity. The government treats you like fucking idiots. And you let them, and you give them the reinforcing feedback. The government wouldn't treat you like the dumb fuck you are if you weren't such a fucking dumb fuck. It's that simple. If we lived in a country with an educated, informed population, then politicians would be unable to treat us like they do. But politicians know, more than most of us do probably, how most, and when I say most, I'm talking minimum, the floor, 80% of Americans are fucking stupid. They are dumb motherfuckers. I'm sorry if that triggers you. Get your fucking shit together. 80% of Americans refuse the latest round of COVID vaccines, as we are in the deadliest part of the pandemic. And now we are facing a combination of a deadly pandemic, infectious disease, with wildfire smoke, which is going to be a very big double whammy. And Americans are still Look at this thumbnail image. People are still walking around outside, no masks on. This fella's wearing one, but look at that, look at that, look at those. Because Americans are fucking stupid. I need you to really understand. You might be thinking I'm overreacting, blah, blah, blah. I need you to understand. 80% is the floor. Now, my personal opinion, right, unscientifically backed up, scientifically backed up, 80% is the floor for dumbass Americans, right? That is the minimum, backed up by science. What is the science? Well, there's a free, safe, effective vaccine for a deadly virus that kills thousands of people a week, and 80% of people said, nah. That makes them objectively dumb fucks. There is no argument. There is no debate. You are a fucking moron. That is the floor, 80%. I personally believe it is closer to 95%. Why do I believe that? Well, there is another statistic I like to talk about on my show, and it is the fiber intake statistic compared with the metabolic dysfunction of the average American. Did you know that only 5% of Americans eat vegetables every day? Look it up. 5% of Americans eat vegetables every day. Now, how many Americans, what is the percentage of Americans that understand that vegetables are healthy and need to be consumed every day to become a healthy person? Now, I'm sure that there's some, really fucking cringy carnivore people out there that just, they genuinely believe vegetables are poison because of lectins or whatever, whatever. But I think most Americans understand that vegetables are healthy. And yet, 95% of Americans don't eat vegetables. And what is that? What happens when you don't eat vegetables? And this goes into the next statistic. 93%, there's a 2% delta, and, that's probably just kids that are just not metabolically ill yet. 93% of Americans have some form of metabolic dysfunction. What happens when you are chronically metabolically ill? It is a chronic health condition. 93% of Americans have a chronic health condition that is the major precursor for diabetes and obesity. 93% of, look it up, 93% of Americans have the biggest major precursor for diabetes, death, obesity, other health complications. So what happens when 93% of Americans are living with chronic sickness? Well, one, it is so widespread and normalized that people think being sick all the time is being healthy. People don't know what being healthy is. When 93% of a country is sick, literally every day of their lives, that reverberates culturally. And so it also leads to what kinds of health problems besides liver failure, fatty liver, diabetes, obesity. It leads to brain fog. It leads to low energy levels. It leads to not being able to form memories, retain information as easily. That's part of the brain fog. It leads to irritability, anxiety, depression. So when 93% of a country is chronically ill, can you really blame them for being too dumb to do anything about it? How did we get to this point? The American government started subsidizing unhealthy foods in the 1960s and 70s. Why? Because Richard Nixon was afraid that black people were going to lead a revolution because of lack of food. That's literally why. Look it up. So Richard Nixon decided to heavily subsidize the corn industry. Now, for those of you that don't know, corn, pretty fucking unhealthy. Now, there's some recipes out there where corn isn't necessarily a bad addition. But for the most part, corn's not that good for you. And they also decided to genetically modify these corn plants, as well as selectively evolve them without genetic modifications, so that they can mass produce things called corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup does similar amounts of damage to the liver and the brain as alcohol does. 1 in 5 children, 1 in 5, 20% of children have fatty liver disease, a disease that 50 years ago was only associated with alcoholics that drank for decades, that drank extensive amounts of alcohol for 10, 20 years. That is where fatty liver disease originated. 1 in 5 children in the United States have the disease of alcohol without ever consuming alcohol. Why? The juice boxes, the cereal, the Hot Pockets, the frozen pizzas, the pizza rolls, the candy, the Coca-Cola, and all of that. It is as poisonous as alcohol, and yet it's legal. And in fact, it's part of culture. Sit your kid down with a juice box and leave them in front of the TV. That's how we raise our children now in this broken country. So, New York Times asks, did New York leaders leave residents unprepared for the air quality crisis? You're missing the point. There is no such thing as being prepared, because we live in a country that is currently in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. This is a zombie apocalypse. And people genuinely need to actually start thinking of it in these terms. Now, again, is it like Left 4 Dead where zombies are running all over the place and, like, you know, killing people and eating their guts in the street? No. This isn't a video game. This isn't like Night of the Living Dead. This is real life, and things happen differently in real life than they do in media. But for all intents and purposes, this is a zombie apocalypse. And that's the thing about zombies, is zombies don't know they're zombies. They're running on instinct. They don't understand that they're zombies. And that's what makes them so dangerous. So you could read more of this, but this shit doesn't matter. They should have distributed N95 masks. I covered this yesterday. Years ago. You know, for the fucking pandemic. That, by the way, is still happening. But they didn't. Because they know that you will take it. Politicians know that you are a worthless pussy and you will do fuck all to fix your position, and you won't hold them accountable. You won't even fix yourself. You won't even fix your family. If politicians know that people are so lazy and stupid and broken down that they won't even look after their own family members, that they won't even look after themselves, why should they fear you? Why should politicians fear you in any way? Why should they help you at all? When they know that they can get away with anything? They can get away with anything, and they will. And they keep doing it, and they will keep doing it. And it's not going to stop, because Americans are zombies. It's a mission success. The American people are fucking zombies. And it's already over. In the same way that we cannot reverse climate change, I personally believe we cannot reverse the American zombies. So where does this leave the 5 to 7% of the population that knows how to eat vegetables, or the 18% of the population that knows how to take a vaccine for the deadliest infectious disease we've ever seen in our lifetimes? What do? We hole up, we board up, we prepare. That's the only thing I have to say. That's my only actionable advice that I can give you. Buy air purifiers. Buy water filtration systems. Buy canned food. Because you're going to need it. So, I don't know what to tell you. Strap up. Put your seatbelt on, because we are in it for the long haul.